You might ask for changes in certain kinds of knowledge, and the good news is that with various kinds of training you can see an improvement in knowledge, but for the most part it's not a lot, it's not very big. Similarly, many skills might be changed, and that isn't a lot. Which might change attitudes, but again, if you can, it's not a lot. So it leaves somebody with the question of, well, what should we change if that doesn't sound very good? And the answer is, we want to change the culture.
And we also stimulate people to make their own choice and then discuss that with each other, not by defending their choice, but really by asking to the other, why do you choose something different, or what do I don't see that's important for you?
I think the best thing we can do is not just tell people what the answers are, but really listen to what they're thinking, understanding where they are, and then helping perhaps together to learn more about whatever we're talking about.
So in that sense, you develop an awareness for various perspectives and also learn that dilemmas can have more than one solution. And that you can learn from others what their solutions are.
All children start with a kind of curiosity, and part of learning, I would say, for science education, is to not stomp out that curiosity, but you develop, you foster it, you cultivate it.
The learner is actually developing their own learning, thinking about these issues, reflecting, rather than having it handed to them.
We apply that also in the research integrity course, asking young researchers what their dilemmas are. Shall I go to my superior when I hear something from a colleague? Shall I follow the advice of the postdoc not to worry too much about methodological issues? And then we see that in a group they reflect on that, and really they become more open to possible solutions and also more convinced of the importance of these issues.
Once you get to a higher level in science, it's a kind of technical notion that you have to develop, and that I think is what you do through mentorship. You learn them through the role models of other scientists that you work with, your colleagues, your advisors, and I think someone who takes that role seriously as an advisor, as a mentor, is someone who tries to pass along those values.
We tried through a role model campaign, and we are using these role models in the learning units too. So we display them and we discuss them. So why are these people researchers which we want to follow? And we are doing a lot of role play so that the students learn to argue for good research.
I think that the best science teachers are the ones who themselves exemplify these virtues. Scientists who are exemplary are curious. You'd want your science teacher to be curious as well. If they only talk about the science as opposed to exemplify what it means to feel like a scientist, they're not going to really convey it.
We might ask for changes in the incidence of research misconduct. There's been no evidence so far that anybody has done that successfully by training. There's little reason actually to believe that we would directly do that.
We know very well how to assess content learning, but even that is difficult. To move to teaching about methods and practices is a higher level of knowledge, and I think we're only beginning to learn how to assess that. And this is an even more difficult area, how to teach about values. So I would say at this point we're only at the very beginnings of figuring out how to do that.
I think one of the biggest challenges is an institutional challenge to find the will and the resources to pursue education and training that reaches out to all sectors.
One EU project about making the platform, Embassy of Good Science, but another call came up about virtue ethics training of researchers. Actually here the two projects come together, because we will put a lot of information on the website, on the Embassy of Good Science. There they can take their own material, they can work with it. So we try to make it in such a way that people can use it in their own way, adapted to their situation.
So we do all know each other, that's the first step, and we are talking to each other and we are collaborating. One thing is we can learn from each other, because we are all projects on teaching research integrity, But we do have slightly different perspectives and slightly different aims. What we should do in the future, and what we already started, is to collaborate on specific topics. For example, on how can we evaluate our teaching materials and teaching approaches.
We aim to develop a lot of trainings in Europe. We will have 300 trainings in Europe over the coming 2 years. So people who are interested can sign up for these trainings. And of course we hope that afterwards, these are train-the-trainer programs, so we will have 3,000 trainers trained. But if elements of our trainings can be integrated there, we can think it could be a way of bringing things broader.
I feel that every time I succeed in doing something useful in this training area, I'm having an impact not just on one person, but usually many people, many of whom will be doing research, so it's almost as if I've magnified the number of research projects I have an impact on by not just 1 or 5 or 10, but thousands.